So guys, it's the weekend after the PP treatment that went in the pond in a two-part dose. Fed on the first day and then left for 3 days, and then on the third day a second treatment gone in. Since then I have done yesterday a filter clean and a partial water change, but nothing has gone in to neutralise the PP. It's just been left in to run its natural course, and as you can see, the water and the pond is absolutely crystal clear. We've got the odd little leaves that we've got scattered around off of this bush that are just on the surface, but the vast majority of it is completely leaf and litter free. So, I just thought I'd give you a bit of an update and let you know how things have gone and how well it's been since we've done the treatment. And another thing I'm going to go over on this little video is some little bits of useful information that I think would be beneficial to a few people. And the only reason why I'm doing this is not because I'm no expert at anything by any shape or form, but I have been asked by a few people, some of the lads that I've seen on site that are subscribers, why, what, where and when, and if they should be doing this kind of thing. So we're going to touch on a bit of those topics, and we're also going to have a little bit of a nosy around the mini pond because I've been asked what I actually store in here. So we're going to have a quick look. And there isn't a great deal really to be able to see down in here. As you can see there, if you can get this on camera, there is one axolotl down there. There is another axolotl. Oh, there you go. Thank you. He's made himself more visible. Another axolotl, my comic goldfish, and there is 4 or 5 little baby koi from the Grow and Show with a Difference. Ones that I wanted to just see how they would develop, and just to put a little bit of something in here other than just the 3 axolotls and the 1 goldfish. So temporarily those little guys are in there, go through the season, go through this winter period, but that's all that's in there at the moment. Needs a little top up, which is going to get done this afternoon, but that was just to show a couple of people and let you know a few things about them. The axolotls prefer colder temperatures. They come from a cold mountainous area where there's a few lakes up there, and I couldn't tell you exactly, but I know there is many other people out there that can tell you a lot more about axolotls, but I do know this much, that they come from colder environments, so prefer colder waters. But those axolotls have been in there now nearly 12 months. In fact, it might be slightly over. This might be... I didn't get them this summer, I'm sure I got them last. So they've done 1 winter and they come through the other side, and now they've done the full season of summer in there. I did have 4, but when I had some of the bigger koi in there, I think one of the bigger koi that was in there before I moved them into the main pond, nibbled it away at the axolotl's gill filaments on the side of it, and that one I lost. But the other 3 have been perfectly fine, not a problem at all. But there isn't anything in there as big now as what there was at the time. But yeah, prefer colder temps, so they'll be perfectly fine to be kept in there. The other one is, I want to have a bit of natter and a bit of a chat with you all about, well, one of the questions I was asked is, do I need to be doing what you did with my pond? Well, winter or autumn preparation and autumn cleaning of his ponds is a good idea for anybody and everybody to be doing. We all should be doing it. Pond husbandry doesn't just continue or doesn't just happen through the summer months, it happens all year round. And we need to keep an eye on his fish all year round. A few things I do on the prep up to winter, i.e. an autumn clean. So get into the autumn months, I make sure that all the bottom of the pond is clean and vacked off, make sure that there's no vegetation rotting down, lilies as such, which you saw me taking out the, you know, the dying off leaves the other week, but I've still got two that are quite alive, so, and one that's a fresh one coming up and through. Still hasn't opened up yet. Chances are it probably won't, but while it's there and it's doing what it's doing, it's taking those nutrients out of the water and consuming them and oxygenating the pond. So what I do is I leave them in. I leave those plants in, and once they start to wrap back or start to decay a little bit, all I do is I trim them off accordingly, trim them back, and then when it gets to the winter months and they all start to die off completely, I'll leave the pots submerged in the pond and don't bother with them. Just trim them all back to the tuber, so to speak, and just leave them be. But I make sure that I get all the bottom of the pond spotless and clean. Make sure I get all the vegetation, any leaves off, any bits and bats, any, you know, muck and waste, and get it all nicely cleaned up. That way then, the fish and the pond, as the fish go into a torpor state, because I'm unheated, as they get down to 8 to 6 degrees, they start to eat less throughout the winter months. I'll only probably feed maybe once or twice a week, if that. As we start getting down to like 6 and 4 degrees, they don't often eat at all. And at present, today we're at 11.9 degrees, so we're nearly 12 degrees. And the fish have fed this morning, and they've had a little bit. I'm only talking about, let me see that, a small handful. You know, I'm not giving them loads. I give them an offering, and if they ain't shifted it and they ain't cleared it within a few minutes, I'll net it off. It's simple enough. Just run netting around at top of the pond, clear it all up, and get rid. But at 12 degrees, guys, or literally just off 12 degrees, they're happy and they're coming up. And you know, for colder temperatures, that's pretty good feeding. They're feeding well. The fish are still hungry. So if they're still hungry, I give them a little offering. If they take that little bit of food, then fantastic. If it was being left and they're not bothering with it, then I'll literally net it off. But as of yet, I haven't had to net any of it off at all. They've come up, they've fed, and they've cleared it. But I aren't giving them tons. They're just getting one little offering in the morning. While I'm out here through the day, they might get a little bit more, another offering, and then I might give them, see how they respond to me when it comes to just before turning dark, and I'll give them a little more, one more little handful, and that will be enough to sufficiently keep them going until the following day. And if they respond to it again, they'll get a little bit more. But as you can see, they are feeding, and it's not, you know, they weren't got any fish that are hiding in a corner or, you know, not bothering or staying away from it. They're all coming up. They're not feeding crazy, but they're still feeding and they're still interested in it. So they're still getting that little bit. Only a small offering. If they can clear it in a matter of minutes, it's gone. Happy days. And then, if needs be, I might give them a little bit more, and that's all they get. So that just touches on a few little bits. Whereas, you know, should we be feeding? Well, I would say, if your fish are hungry, they'll show you signs that they're hungry. If your fish want food, they'll feed and they'll take the food. Feeding, you know, low protein foods, much more suitable. But even on a bag, if you go onto Sakai Akari and you go into their website, it will state, and it stipulates, feeding koi at temperatures below 18 degrees, which it says in Sakai Akari, the fish food or Sakai Akari can be fed, and this is the balance, can be fed below 18 degrees as and when required by your fish. So you just got to watch them, guys. You got to see how they are. Don't be feeding them in temperatures, you know, 4 and 6 degrees, because the likelihood is if they come up and they do eat something and your temperatures drop a little bit lower, they're just going to have that food lingering around in the intestines, and it's probably not going to do them any good. But while we're in autumn and the temperatures are still 12 degrees, they're still feeding and they're still active and they're still looking for food. While they're still looking for food, my fish get it. Now it's entirely up to yourselves what you do, but this is what I do. I'm not telling you need to do, I'm just telling you what I do. And the preparations that I put into place when it comes to autumn preparation for winter and your fish stock going into the colder months and getting them basically ready for it. And you get to stand here and enjoy watching your fish have a little bit of something to eat, and you get what, you know, you still get to be out here and be with them. But one of the other things is water changes. People think, or people may think, should we do water changes in the winter months? Should we turn off those filter systems? Now in the past, years gone by, turning everything off was a thing that a lot of people did. I myself at one time did, but only one season. I turned it off because we had a particularly bad winter, and the reason why I turned it off is because if I hadn't done, everything would have froze over. But it didn't stay off continuously throughout the winter period. It just stayed off for the 4 or 5 days that we had a severe bit of snow and the temperatures in the pond froze. After that, the water, you know, melted, so the ice melted and it all defrosted, the snow melted in the garden, and the system was put back on again. So they had a couple of days, but it was only to prevent damage or burst pipes. So the other thing I do, and the one thing I'm going to have to do, is I'm going to have to lag the pipe system and the leaf guard system and protect the pipework that I've got coming from that. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to get a bit of insulation rag wool, which is, you know, normal loft insulation. I'm going to stuff a load of that inside a bin liner, and I'm going to make it into a pillow shape. And I'm going to wrap that pillow shape to make like a boiler jacket, like you would have for your water tank immersion tanks. I'm basically going to make one myself. And that's all that's inside a water jacket. It is literally rag wool insulation inside the jacket, stuffed inside it, and you know, you wrap it around your water tanks to keep them warm. And you do that. I'm going to have a go at making one, basically. So, protection of your pipework, that's another good thing that needs to be done. But obviously, with having this leaf guard on, I don't want that freezing up in the winter months. It gets pretty cold up here for us. So, lagging and insulating of pipework, making it so that it's safe and secure and warm enough to prevent cracks, freezing, burst pipes. That's another thing that I'm going to be doing. I've left the insulation on the pipework throughout most of the season, and it's already on the pipework. I just want to protect the other bit, which I can show you here. Look, we've got pipe lagging on these sections. I just need to lag off and insulate these little bits of pipe that go underneath the stonework here, and this bit that comes into here, and making sure that this leaf protection. So I'm just going to make a little bit of an insulation jacket to go around it, and there's a couple of little pieces of pipe work that I've got no lagging on there that I need to insulate and back through. But I've got tons of the insulation up here, absolutely loads of it, so I've got plenty that I can make use and lag around on that to keep them secure and safe. So now the other one, the reason why I did what I was doing. I had parasites, I had an issue. I have a couple of fish that were showing signs of issues, and the fish that were showing signs of issues, which were the Cancho Sancti there, my Kumon Ruler, and my Matsu Kawabaki. And the Matsu Kawabaki both looked like there was struggling somewhat. Heavy mucus on the Kumon root and the Matsu Kawabaki, and a really bit of pinking on the Sanke. Now I have introduced some new fish, and you know, I'm not, the parasites are parasites. No matter what we do, wherever they come from, there's always going to be the chance that you get parasites. Now I knew when I introduced the last new fish that I'd got parasites. I knew that because I had a few fish that were flashing, so I scraped 4 fish, and on those 4 fish, on 2 slides, I found 2 individual flukes off the same fish. The other 3 fish were clean. So I knew I'd got parasites in, but because there wasn't no real bad effects from it, I left them be. Banging treatment in for 1 or 2 flukes isn't really the best of ideas, and it's not really all that necessary. You might as well treat when you've got, I'm not meaning an explosion of parasites, but treat when it's more needed. And I knew that within a couple of weeks I was going to be adding 2 more fish. So there's no point banging them through 2 lots of treatments and, you know, running the risk of bringing some more parasites in again from a different source. When I knew that I was going to be having the fish going in, I thought, right, it's a couple of weeks, they'll be fine as they are. We know we've got flukes. If we're going to have to treat for anything, we're going to have to treat. So let's just treat once. And that's what was my intention. Put in the new stock, and one of the new stock started to show signs of looking a little bit irritated and a little bit pink. So we hit him with the PP. We went in for his first dose, and we managed 2 hours of keeping the water purple. After we'd done that, I left it 3 days. Well, so that was on the Friday. Checked them again on the Saturday. The water changed on and deep filter cleaned on the Sunday, and went in again then with another treatment on the Monday. So they went back in on the Monday with another treatment of PP. The second treatment, the first treatment really got rid of my organic load. The second treatment was to do the treatment of nailing the parasites. So we went in, and I managed to be able to keep that water purple for about 5 hours, which was a good treatment. Very little chance of anything managing to survive through that, but all the fish have come through unscathed, no problems, and the one fish that had the little patches of pink area now has reduced to almost completely being back to normal. It isn't completely back to normal because it had rubbed itself a little bit with, you know, shimming and skimming across and flashing, irritating the skin a little bit and making it a bit pink. Now there is a couple of little small areas, they're probably about that kind of size now on each side, where there was the full lateral length of the fish that was a bit pink. So I know that the treatment's worked. I know that the fish is getting better, because day in, day out, when I come out to have a look, it is progressively getting better bit by bit. Now I was tempted to perhaps maybe go with a couple of salt baths for it, but again, it's more stress for the fish. It's a new fish in a new environment. It's a new fish, and taking it out and stressing it out even more is not the best of ideas. So I thought, I'm going to leave it be, see how it does. And up to press, it's looking good. It's done its job. The PP has eradicated. I've not seen, you know, you might see the odd fish flash, which they do, but when you're seeing continuous flashing after flashing after flashing from 4 or 5 different fish, then you know you've got issues. And my best advice to anybody is, in winter prep or autumn prep for going into winter, is to make sure that you take a scraping of your fish, take a microscope, have a look at them under a microscope. If you've got signs of parasites, treat before winter so that you can get these parasites eradicated, or at least if you don't manage to get rid of them, you will have certainly reduced the numbers of them, which will mean that your fish will have less stress going through into the winter period. And that's all I was doing, exactly that, making sure that my fish are going into winter in 1, a clean environment, 2, a full clean, deep clean filter system, free, parasite free, as best as we can possibly maintain, or within his capabilities of getting them parasite free. Will I got rid of everything? Likelihood is no. I don't think we ever get rid of all the parasites. We can only do as very best and try as best to make sure that we provide them what they need to go through the winter months in as least stressful environment as possible. So, I hope that helps a few people out there. I certainly hope. The gentleman, the reason why I said I'm doing this little video is I was asked by a gentleman on site, and he asked me, I saw your video, a great video that, mate, do you think I need to do it? Well, no, I don't think everybody needs to do it. I needed to do it because my fish required it. Now, if you do scrapes and you find something, then you need to treat accordingly. And the best way to do that is to treat with whichever is the most best way of putting it, not the most severe case of parasites first, i.e. if you've got costia or if you've got flukes, costia could be a killer. So you would treat for the costia first before you tried to eradicate the flukes. And then, once you've eradicated the costia, you would treat for the flukes. But I was advised to go with a strong dose of PP treatment from people in the know and that have got way more experience than I, to hit them with a good dose of PP, which should eradicate absolutely everything. And there'll be those people that will say out there, no, PP doesn't kill flukes. Well, it does. It says so on the packet. It's whether or not the dosage that we are advised to use will eradicate flukes. That is a different subject, and that is a subject or a topic for you to do your research on yourself and to find out if you need to be doing that or if you need to be treating with different doses than what states. I'm not going to tell anybody what I use or what I do, but I know that I can treat my fish with the dosages that I've used, and I spent 9.5 hours out here, guys. I did not leave these fish unattended once. I stayed out here all day long, 9.5 hours watching these fish, and then after the 9.5 hours, every half hour right up to me going to bed at midnight, I came out to double check and make sure that there was no fish having no problems and no issues, and no fish that was stressing, no fish struggling. And then when I came out first thing in the morning, 7 o'clock, check again, make sure everything was okay, checking on the camera throughout the day whilst I was at work to make sure that they were still okay, even to the point where my son was home, and if I needed him to, he could have gone out there and he could have added hydrogen peroxide. I could have told him exactly how much to pour into the jug, so he could have just popped it in if there were any issues. Now, leaving the PP in to run its full natural course, and how everybody's said in the past, your pond looks absolutely crystal clear. It doesn't happen day 2. When you've had it go to the brown stage and leave it through to run its full course, the PP's still doing a job. Maintaining it purple for up to 4 hours is ideally the best thing. I managed over 5, and then after that we went straight in with the second dose. The first dose, sorry, was 2 hours, and then I left it to run its full course. Water change, filter clean, and then dechlorinate. After I'd added the dechlorinator, the following day we went in with a PP treatment. So they had a 2-day break and then straight back into another treatment again. And that one we managed to keep for 5 hours, over 5 hours. Allowed it to run its full course. The following morning you get up, you've got a bit of foam on your pond and it's a bit of a brown, it looks a bit unsightly. You have a brown scummy mark all the way around. All the bubbles on the surface of your pond are brown. And I just left it to do its natural course, left it through, let it run through its process, and the following day less a little bit, just a tiny little bit of brown foam in the bubbles. The following day after that, pond looked absolutely crystal clear. I can see sand on the bottom of the pond, and I know my pond's not massively deep, guys. I know it's not a huge pond, but if I can see and identify tiny little pieces of gravel and little pieces of sand on the bottom of the pond, then that's pretty damn clear. Yes, there is the element of the deep filter clean, so that's obviously going to have made things and the water clear and the filters cleaner, because obviously it'll have pulled out all the finer waste in the pond, in the water column, and made that cleaner. But the PP does make a massive difference. It does make your water, as people have said in the past on the live shows and stuff, it literally turns your water like glass, and it is crystal clear. I did have a lot of tannins to the pond. The tannins have been removed, they're completely gone. Yes, I've stopped feeding as much, so that could be part of the reason as to why, but I do believe the PP's done a fantastic job. Now look at them all coming down here now to have a look. They all come down to the bottom half of the pond if I stay down here. So yeah, kind of a bit of a recap. So winter autumn preparation. Give your ponds a good clean out. Give your filter system a good deep clean. Take scrapes off your fish. Everybody should really be comfortable with taking scrapes off your fish. If you haven't, there's plenty of videos out there that show you how to take a scrape off a fish. There's absolutely tons of information of what parasites look like. There are plenty of well-established companies, you know, like Perfect Aquatics, or you've got, you know, Rick from New Forest Koi, all these exclusively koi, all these companies that are out there, you know, that are more than capable of giving you the advice that you need or you require if you find some parasites and you want to know which is the first one or the best treatments to use. But we need to get these treatments in before your temperatures drop below 10 degrees. If they're dropping below 10 degrees, you're just wasting your money. You're not going to get rid of the parasites, and you're not going to get the treatment doing its job because the temperature is too cold and it just won't do what it needs to do. So, 1, filter cleans. Deep cleaning your pond, making sure you've got all the leaf matter, all the waste, any build-up of stuff that might be behind any of your plant pots and behind your pumps, if you're pump fed, if your bottom drain, purging your system out, making sure that all your filter system and all your pond has had a good clean out and your filter systems are prepped and ready for going through into winter. 2, taking scrapes off your fish and making sure that your fish are good and parasite free throughout the winter period. That way then you know when they're going into a torpor mode, which is, you know, from like 6 to 4 degrees, those fish will just park up, they'll get down there at the bottom of the pond, they'll sit there in torpor, and they probably won't move until the temperatures start to rise back up again. Next one would be what I would do. Just because the fish are in the torpor mode doesn't mean that you still don't need to come out and do a filter clean and do a water change of 10%. This is what I do. I do a filter clean and a water change of 10% every week, regardless, even through the winter months. Don't get me wrong, I might miss the odd one due to weather conditions if it's too bad to be out here, or perhaps maybe the pond's frozen over and I can't be adding water in there, or I can't be taking water away from there. But don't be so worried about adding water in the winter temperatures. If anything, you'll bring the pond back up maybe half a degree. The water that comes out of the taps is normally a couple of degrees warmer than the pond temperature, which when you've added that 10% might alter it by half a degree, which is not going to be anything significant enough to create any stress events or any issues for your koi. But personally, me, I don't stop looking after my fish. I don't stop caring for the fish throughout the winter periods. I still come out here. We might be able to turn off ultraviolets because at this time of year we've got less sunlight, we don't get as much of the algae blooms that we used to do, and we do through the summer months. So you can save a little bit by switching off ultraviolets, and if you notice that your water start to colour up and green up a little bit, switch it back on. Put it back on for a couple of days, knock that algae back again and switch it back off. You'll save a few pounds. It's not going to be a great deal of savings, but it's going to be a saving nonetheless. After that, you could also then start thinking about reducing air. You don't need to have as much oxygen in your pond in the winter months as what you do. Obviously, with the turnover of air in from the bottom of your pond and circulating the water, you're taking the warmer temperatures from the bottom of the pond, and you're basically cooling the water more. So if you can have your returns returning back underwater, it's going to be very difficult for me to be able to even do that, but we might just see how things go. If I can adapt something that we can change this so that it returns underwater, then we've not got the cold winter air chilling the water that's been taken out from the bottom and returning back into the top. If we can get it to return underwater, then it's not going to get super chilled by the winter months and winter temperatures. So look at seeing if you can return your water back to the pond underneath the surface of the water, stopping further chilling of your pond. Water changes and filter cleans throughout the season, throughout the winter period, 52 weeks every year. 10% water change, replenishing the water that's been, and it reduces the toxins in your water as you're doing so. That's what I do, guys. This is not me saying this is what you need to do, but this is what I do. It just gives you and your fish that nicer, safer environment to be in, and looks after them that little bit more. Let's see if we can see if we'll have a few there. I've only just thrown on just a couple of little pellets. So they're still interested, they're still eating, they're still active, and they're still feeding. We're at 12 degrees, 11.9, and the fish are still keen to eat. Another thing you might spot at this time of year as well, now the temperatures are dropping off, is you might spot the odd little bit of carp pox coming up on your fish, especially if you're in an unheated pond. Unfortunately, guys, it's one of those things that once it's in your pond, it's a virus, and the virus will spread throughout your fish until such time as they build up enough of an immune system, or strong enough immune system, to be able to fight that off and keep it at bay. It's unsightly, 9 times out of 10 it just makes small little waxy lumps that appear on your fish, but it's nothing major to be worrying about. It doesn't really cause any major problems to your fish. It just looks a little bit unsightly, and as the warm spring months come back and the summer months kick in and the temperatures rise up, we normally tend to see these little small patches of carp pox disappear as the fish get older and their immune system picks up. It normally gets rid of it. If you have got it and you are heated, then you can raise your temperature up a little bit, and it might help with the immune system for the fish, giving them a bit more chance to be able to fight it off. But it's one of those other things that you normally tend to see rear its ugly head at this time of year, so not much you can really do about it. It's a non-treatable disease. There is no cure for it. It's the same as the herpes virus in humans, where you get an odd cold sore. You'll see sometimes younger kids have it quite a lot, sometimes adults have it, but once your immune system gets to a certain level, it tends to keep it at bay and keep it away, and we all tend to kind of grow out of it. And I believe that the carp pox is a very similar thing. As the fish's immune system builds up, they tend to grow out of it as well. So there you go, guys. There's a couple of little tips of what I do with my koi for my pond in preparation for winter. I'm coming through or for autumn and coming through into winter, so that the fish get to go into the colder seasons of the year with as little stress as possible. And yes, I know it would be better for the koi if they were heated, but unfortunately in the position that I'm in right now there's absolutely no chance I can afford to even heat the house, never mind the goddamn fish pond, with the short time work wise situation and the possible redundancies looming for the very near future. There's not much chance that I could afford to be but you know, these things happen, guys, and they happen for a reason, and everything takes you to where you're going. So if needs be, it's a new chapter, and we'll start where we're going, and we'll take one day at a time, see how it goes. But for your fish, there's a couple of tips, guys, on what you should and shouldn't be doing. Those choices are down to you. These are just the advice that I'm giving as what I do with my fish to prepare them as best as I possibly can, so that they go through with the least amount of problems into the winter period. But yeah, most of all, guys, enjoy it. Enjoy your fish, enjoy your koi. Still get out here in the winter months and do your filter clean, have a look at them, see how they're doing, you know, make sure that you're doing what's expected of you. And what's expected of us is to take care of those fish to the best of our capabilities. And as long as we're doing that, and as fish are healthy, and as fish are doing well, that's what makes the hobby what it is. Anyway, guys, just a little short one this week. Usual thing, if you've been enjoying this kind of content, do us a huge favour. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and until next time, which will be this Thursday, Thursday Night Live, coming up next Thursday, should I say. Usual thing, we'll be back 7:30 with the usual guys. Hopefully the gang will all be back together, and we'll be there to answer any questions or any topics that anybody would like to have a chat and chat about. So till then, guys, keep smiling, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, all.